Hi, everyone. My name's Alastair. I cover venture capital for Private Equity Hub and Venture Capital Journal. And you're in for a treat, so thanks for, and you're welcome to come forward. We're not as menacing as we look. This is a fireside chat, so imagine a roaring fireplace behind us.
I never understood why is it called a fireside chat when
I don't
there's no
know.
fire.
I don't know.
Is this being taped, by the way? Is this being taped?
It is.
Okay,
Oh,
I have
okay.
to watch my language then.
Because there's always the danger of dropping F-bombs, I suppose, when talking to an investor.
I've had warnings.
Okay, Hany, introduce yourselves to this lovely crowd.
Hi, everybody. My name is Hany. I've actually spoken at this conference before. It's a fun conference. It's actually one of my favorites. It's a small, intimate conference about the dredges of the music industry. It's a sector that I love. I have a passion of music. We've invested in several music companies, and knock on wood, we've made money on all to date. We've invested in a company called Pandora. We've invested in SoundCloud. We're investors in Bandpage, Jukely, and we have about 3 or 4 other Chinese companies, YY, Chukong, which also do music in Asia. So it's a very interesting sector to me. I think it is a $24 billion industry that should be closer to a $100 billion industry. And my goal in life is to see it grow to mushroom to be that big. So that's the quick summary.
That's a great summary. And just a quick poll from the audience. How many in here are entrepreneurs? Oh, lots, the majority. How many of you are looking to raise money from an investor? You can be honest.
Okay, who's looking for seed money? Raise your hand.
Thank you.
Who's looking for Series A? Series
okay.
B? Series C?
Okay.
Any really, really old people looking for a Series D? No. Great.
Thanks for being honest. So you don't just invest in music, you invest in other companies. I mean, you were involved in something called Alibaba, I think, and
Yep.
Glue Mobile. So what I'm driving at is what drove you to invest in music?
So music is one of my passions. Actually, across the board, I invest in companies that I have a passion for. So video games, audio, music, and even e-commerce are all some of my passions. I also have a passion for hardware, so I invest in drone companies as well. But music is one of my top passions. I probably spend at least 40 hours a week with music on somewhere in my life. And I'm an aspiring, I shouldn't say aspiring, I'm no longer aspiring. I'm an amateur drummer, not very good, not nearly as good as Larry Marcus, who's is a fantastic jazz drummer.
And he never hesitates to tell you that, too.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the interesting things is I tend to be a little bit contrarian because most of my peers in the venture capital world hate investing in music because a lot of industry people have lost a lot of money trying to go after the space. It's a very difficult space to invest in. Many people feel like it's trying to invest in the government because of the licensing rules and how kind of asinine a lot of these deals end up being over time. But I actually find it a great challenge. I think there's some really cool, innovative models of monetization and helping artists make more money that are just emerging.
You use the word hate. I mean, it is very negative. It's how did you overcome that in the early beginnings? That feeling that, hey, you're a VC, don't invest in music. That's not where you want to look at.
So I remember looking at Pandora, talking to Tim early on, and we looked at it at this Series A. Savage Beast, if you guys remember that. We looked at it Series A, we looked at Series B, and they were just on the cusp, and they were like, well, we're going to sign a label soon, we're going to do this, and we're going to do that. And they didn't yet have any licensing deals, and we passed multiple times, and finally ended up investing, I think it was in the Series C. It was a $300 million valuation round, which back then was very, very expensive. But they really had some traction both on the licensing side and the advertising side. So it was kind of a proven model. And we saw the opportunity that this is going to be a big company because of music so rampant and interactive music, especially on these devices, was going to be big. And that's when we made the investment.
Mm-hmm. How'd that investment turn out?
Actually, really good. So it's interesting. So we sold most of our stock when the company went public. We did very well on the investment.
Which was, 3 years ago now or longer?
It's been longer than that.
Yeah, it has been.
But interestingly enough, when the stock ran into trouble recently again, we actually re-engaged. We went back and invested in the company. We spent some time with management team, really like some of the upcoming things that they are planning and thinking about, whether it's international expansion or additional streaming services. And I think they're doing a really good job with industry now versus, I think the previous management team had this antagonistic relationship with the industry. I think the new management team is actually embracing a lot of the things that I think are required to build a multi-product music company.
Mm-hmm. And so what are you seeing today in the music business, and as far as worthwhile startup investments are concerned? And
so,
yeah, go ahead.
Look, I think for everybody here, I see a lot of early stage, seed stage music companies come and say, "Hey, you should invest in us. We have this new widget that's going to do great." By and large, taking venture capital money is kind of an evil prospect. We are going to push you to do things that are unnatural. We're going to push you to do things that are going to try to make you into a multi-billion-dollar, and I hate using the word unicorn, but we're all going to push you into becoming a unicorn. And oftentimes that kills really innovative businesses. Most businesses that I see, I either invest personally, and I've done so with many of the music companies, or taking friends and family money. Because if you're going to build a business that's going to eventually be a $100 million business, don't take venture capital money. They're going to make you squander that money that you could potentially earn by building a great successful business and try to get to $1 billion or $10 billion. That's how we make our investors money. The top 10 companies in any venture portfolio are the ones that make the money. Everything else is a loser. So we're going to push you to take additional risk than you probably are comfortable taking if you're building a good, modest business. I mean, a lot of people can build a $10, $15, $20 million business with good profitability if they're not pushed to try to create a $100 million business. So I really kind of make sure that you want to go on that dark side, take venture capital money and push the risk. I mean, it's the truth, right? So that's kind of off the bat. The other thing that I see, and I hate using the word monetization because it makes people feel like they're being trafficked. But I think the industry is woefully behind the business models that are emerging out of tech. If you think about business models, there's three main ways people can take content, music, pictures, video, and get money from consumers that consume that content. The obvious one, and it's been around forever, since the beginning of radio, is advertising, right? Sponsorships and ads. And that's a pretty tried and true model, and I think Pandora is probably the leader on interactive music monetization using advertising. And then slowly what's come up after that is subscription services. So Spotify, on-demand streaming, and even there's live streaming services that have done really well. So Jukely is one of ours, and they are trying to create live music discovery through a subscription. And that's an interesting business. I really like, I don't know if you guys know Bora, he's a great entrepreneur based in New York. The one piece that I think is missing that other companies have seen is the e-commerce piece, the commerce piece. And I'm not selling about t-shirts and hats. I think there's a huge opportunity in selling e-commerce. So we're investors in Airbnb. Mm-hmm. Airbnb, sorry, I'm talking fast. I'm very excited.
So
Airbnb started off as basically renting couches off people's homes. It's now today a multi-billion-dollar company, and not only can you rent a couch, you can actually rent a room and maybe even a house. And one of the things that people are saying, well, stop growing. They've got so many people already. They've reached market saturation. But one of the interesting things that they're adding on to their services is an experience route. So you as a host might rent a couch or a room or a house. But in addition to that, you can invite your guest to come out with you to a neighborhood bar, meet your friends, take a local tour of a city, and the host gets paid for that. And that might cost 2 or 3 times more what you're paying for that couch or the room. So these additional experiences, as they call them, are going to be, I think, just as big, if not bigger, than the couch rental business or the room rental businesses. So they're really taking an innovative stance on providing services for the tourists and the guests that they have in their homes. And I think the music industry needs to think about the additional services that fans want or need beyond just music. And it's really hard to say, and I'm sure if you're a musician, it's hard to hear. But I think of music or recorded music as the end cap or the doorbuster prize to get the consumers in the door. I think once you can establish a fan base, there's so many ways to monetize. And I've talked about, segmentation of your audience and understanding your audience ad nauseum to you guys. But I truly think people have not figured it out yet. There's a scalable model in providing additional services to your fans. And I'm not talking about hats and T-shirts. I think there is something there. And that's the company. This is why I'm speaking at this conference, because I think there is a company here, somewhere, that can do this.
You all can see why I agreed to do this. All I had to do was just ask one question and sit back and enjoy it. So you're a VC, and you just told these people that taking venture capital is taking evil money. Where should most of these people are entrepreneurs? How should they start their business? If you don't want them to take VC money, how should they raise their capital?
So I think there's a lot of interesting ideas that are getting seed funded right now. There's a lot of seed investors out there. There's a lot of rich entrepreneurs out there. So guys that are successful, LinkedIn, guys that are successful, Twitter, they're all living down in Menlo Park and Palo Alto and Atherton, becoming angel investors. And they're writing $50, $100,000 checks to a lot of startups, to friends and family startups. And many of them are passionate about music as well. I mean, that's another leverage point. I think you got to seek those people out, get their advice, and pitch your ideas to them. It's really inexpensive to start a company. It's never been more inexpensive to start a company than today. The cloud services, the infrastructure, the offshoring, the consulting. There's a lot of opportunities to build these really great companies from the early start by leveraging $50,000 to $100,000 seed capital. So that's what I would suggest many of the startups today that have a great idea go do. Go prove it out. Build an app or build your ecosystem or build your product and test it out. And if you got good data points, Series A investors, the evil venture capitalists, will come flocking to you. If it's truly a revolutionary idea, they will come flocking to you. It's really hard to try to build to raise $1 million or $2 million or $3 million for your Series A or your seed round to build something from scratch, and you're going to build this gigantic Taj Mahal. I would not recommend that. I think it's really, really hard to do. And the only way you can do that is if you're a proven serial entrepreneur and have a friend that's got a big checkbook to do, a venture capitalist friend.
Great advice. What about AngelList? Are there good music investments there?
So I think AngelList is a great tool, but again, I think you're fighting against the stigma of music being a bad space to invest in as a venture capitalist. It's really, really hard to overcome that stigma on an anonymous platform like AngelList. Unless you've got a big sponsor at AngelList, I think that's going to be really hard.
Is it important to be as passionate about music as you are if you're investing in it?
It's actually negative because I make some really bad decisions because of my passion. I think you're going to find a lot of people that are passionate about music in the venture business, and I think it's great to leverage that passion into. A really, really good friend of mine, a ski buddy. I'm not sure if Gordon is here or not. Started a company called Bounce Chat, and his idea was around using it to leverage live music events. Great idea, and I haven't invested personally, but I've been spending a lot of time with him, advising him on how to think about building the app, the right leverage points, the right points of the app. So he's getting, advice from a venture capitalist. Well, I'm not sure if it's good advice or not, but he's getting at least my advice around how to build a company, and that's very, very valuable. And I've actually introduced him to friends who have invested in this company. So I've maintained the church and state line with him, but I've been able to help him a lot. So find a sugar daddy, if you will, to help you with some of these ideas.
Yeah, if you learn one thing, it's find a sugar daddy to invest in your MusicTech startup. But seriously, if people are interested in getting the feedback from an experienced VC, or even better if that person is into music and has invested in music, I mean, let's be honest. Most VCs, don't take inbound emails or don't answer, unsolicited calls, and don't like to be approached. Excluding you, of course, you're very approachable. But if people in the audience want to talk, want to pick the brain of a VC. I heard that's a bad expression to say, by the way. I just want to pick your brain. But if people just want to talk to you and gain some insight into the music tech business, what's a great way to find, a solid investor to get feedback on?
So I think there's a couple of ways to do it. I would never cold call or send a cold email to a venture capitalist.
Okay.
I get literally hundreds per day, and I cannot and I can't do them all. I mean, it'd be great if I had enough time to read them all. I'll maybe find that one in 1,000, but we're not going to read them. The only way you'll get attention of a venture capitalist is if you get a referral from a person that is, that they know that you know, a qualified reference. That's the only way that you'll get the attention from a venture capitalist. Or if you're at a conference like this and we're over cocktails and hey, can I have an idea? Can I pitch it to you? And if you could do it in 30 seconds, if you could do it in 10 seconds and get their attention, that's brilliant. If you could do it in 30 seconds, you have a chance. If it takes longer than 30 seconds, forget about it. So practice your pitch. That's really important. The elevator pitch is very, very important.
Practice your pitch. You mentioned e-commerce.
We had the guy from The Weeknd in here.
I saw it. It made you pause. Yes. People were looking at us. They weren't looking at.
I'm making Alastair blush.
It's easy to do. So
should we open it up for? If they, I'm
yeah,
sure
sure.
they want to ask questions.
Yeah. Does anyone have any questions? We do have a mic that we can pass to you. Anyone with a question? Raise your hand and we'll get it to you. How about that gentleman in the back? You can ask Hany anything. Yes. Yes, it's on.
Hey, first of all, great advice, because I have a record label, but I don't even call it a label. I call it D7 Sounds because we sell sound. And my partner won the California State Lottery. The other one's a rock star named Eddie Money. So I got seed money from these guys. We have intellectual property. And so now we really want to go to the next step, and we have a business plan. So the question is, again, exactly what you said, is approaching a VC with music in mind instead of it being an app or a tech-oriented company, because it's going to be intellectual property that we own. So does that make sense?
So I'm trying to understand the question or the pitch. So the first advice is you had my undivided attention for 10, 15, 30 seconds, and I didn't get the crispness of the solution, right? You have IP, you've got good backers. Any guy that's named Eddie Money, even though he's a musician or not, is a good name because he's got money, at least influence in the industry. So you got to get crystallized. Tell me what your business plan is. This is IP, right? I mean, everything I have is IP. What is IP? Quit using buzzwords and tell me what your business is.
The intellectual property are the songs and the music that we have.
Okay.
Now we have to bring it up to the next step, because I'm using internet radio to get airplay. We have a regional reach and all, but I want to get to a national level, and so I'm going to need money. Most of it's going to be for marketing. So is marketing something that interests you as a venture capitalist?
All right. Sorry to do this to you, but everybody raise your hand who wants to invest in this company.
Sorry, dude.
All right. Any other questions? I'm not going to put you on the spot.
Go ahead.
Do you look at investments as additive to the existing portfolio that you've already invested in? So SoundCloud and Pandora, for example?
Additive or complementary, yes.
So great question. It's really hard to invest in direct competitors. Mm-hmm. But eventually what happens is companies start to merge together in terms of the direction. We sit on a lot of these boards, so you get a lot of private information of what's going on, the direction of the companies. So it's really sensitive for a lot of companies. So we try to be investors in complementary companies rather than competitive companies. When they're public, then it's, all bets are off. But like by and large, private companies, I won't invest in two private companies that are doing the same thing, because I think that's really hard to do. Yes. Wait for the mic.
Thank you.
Hi. I read your publication, so thanks.
Thank you. Always great to meet a fan. Ask Hany a question.
Yeah, sure. Is there opportunity, or are there people already taking advantage of the sort of East Coast, West Coast dynamic? So there are a bunch of guys on Wall Street that are interested. They're like, what the hell's going on over there? Like, are there co-investment opportunities? Are there people approaching you to say, hey, I got all these guys with a bunch of money. We want to invest alongside you. Does that happen?
We call that dumb money in the Silicon Valley. Right. There's a lot of money in the system today. We have my Chinese entrepreneurs who have made hundreds of millions of dollars coming to the U.S., trying to diversify their assets, investing, co-investing with us, investing in companies, doing seed stage companies. So I think there's a lot of money out there for startups in general. I think you have to be very careful of the money you take, because sometimes it taints you in a particular corner, or it will force you in a particular direction. If you have, nobody's going to give you a check and walk away and never talk to you again. They're going to be on your ass saying, hey, what's going on this quarter? What's going on this month? And the less professional those investors are, the harder your job is going to be. It looks like the next panel is here because now we have a real audience.
Yeah. They heard good things about us in the hallway and came in. Well, let's try to wrap it up.
There's one more question in the corner right there.
Okay.
What's the best elevator pitch you ever received?
Fantasy sports for money.
That sounds like DraftKings. He's an investor in DraftKings. So to wrap it up, VC equals evil corp. Hone your
Mega evil corp.
hone your elevator pitch. How else would you wrap it up?
And truly think about like the company you're building. Does it make sense to take venture capital money, or does it make sense to take angel and seed money? There's a huge difference in the expectations of those two things. And the reason why I say venture capital is evil megacorp money, because we're all trying to create these megacorps, and sometimes it kills a lot of companies when we do that.
Mm-hmm. But as a consumer, hey, we're really happy to have Pandora and Bandpage and Jukely and so forth. So
yeah. Keep on listening.
Hey, if you make money off of it.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. How about giving a hand to Hany? Thanks. Thanks, ma'am.